Rabbi Menken, great to have you back on American Thought Leaders.
And it's great to be back with you.
There's a lot of talk of racism in the air. When I saw you in the crowd, I thought we should talk about that today.
Well, it's, obviously racism, anti-Semitism, charges back and forth. This one's a racist, no, that one's an anti-Semite. You're absolutely right. It's very much in the air. And what is tragic is that the narrative is being co-opted to tell a lie about racism.
Okay, tell me more.
When a person has a political position that others take umbrage and find offensive, and they push back against it, to go and hide behind your identity is wrong. And I can apply that, obviously to the Jewish community as well. If I would say something that was offensive, and people would push back against that position, and we'd say, oh, they're only against that position because I'm a Jew. That would be wrong. That would be pushing the wrong way. And by the way, it happens. We see on the, there are certain very wealthy Jewish donors who put a lot of money in the election, and certain individuals will call them out on it. George Soros, for example. And they say, oh, that's anti-Semitic to call out George Soros for spending all this money on campaigns. No, it's not. It's not anti-Semitism. It's about his positions, and it's about how he's spending his money.
So what about these charges of racism against the president, and I guess against you because you're a supporter of the president?
That's true. They actually went as far as, if you support the president, you're a racist too. You're right about that.
And it's not just one person. I've seen that narrative more than once.
Right.
In the social media from not too small of a name.
And here, in this particular case, it's completely inverting the reality. It's not the hostility to American values includes, in the case of this squad, a hostility to the Jewish community. Certainly from statements that we have on record from AOC and Omar and Tlaib. I don't know where Presley comes into this equation. She seems to be like the add-on because she rarely says things on her own.
Right.
But just the fact that she aligns herself with the other three who've all made classically anti-Semitic statements, I don't care what color or race they are. I care that they're saying the same things as David Duke.
So I think some of these folks would say the exact same thing that you were just telling me, right? Hey, they're just, actually what we said wasn't anti-Semitic. What we're saying is, just factual.
Right.
So why are you pushing back?
This
is also, everything is inverted today, isn't it?
It's what really hurts is watching so many in the Jewish community sell out their values. For example, when AOC made her tremendously offensive Holocaust comparison.
Right.
And that if Donald Trump or anybody in the conservative side of the aisle had made exactly the same comparison, that they would have been the first to call it racism. So they've traded in their Judaism for leftism and claimed that they're representing the Jewish community when they say, oh, that's not a problem, what she said. Whereas if you look at it from a neutral perspective, it was obvious.
Well, explain why that's obvious.
I don't get my schooling in anti-Semitism from studying today's political parties.
Okay.
I can actually open a book from prior to 1895 and show you a definition of anti-Semitism that talks about the two classic markers of anti-Semitism.
Okay.
And those happen to be the only two things that AOC claims to know about the Middle East.
Enlighten me, I'm fascinated.
Well, what does she say? She says, I'm not the expert in global politics on this issue. I'm talking about her original NPR firing line interview shortly after her stunning victory in the primary.
Okay.
She said the only thing she knows is that the Jews, aka Israel, are taking property that is not theirs. They're stealing property and being unfair to everybody else. Those, according to Rabbi Berlin from the 1890s, and he traces it right back to the Bible, to the story of Laban and Jacob, those are the classic markers of anti-Semitism. That the Jews believe that they can steal from everybody else and be unfair to everybody else.
Fascinating. I had no idea.
And that's her political platform on Israel. So I'm not calling it anti-Semitic because I'm conservative or because she's liberal or because, and certainly not because she's a Puerto Rican of a Puerto Rican origin. It has nothing to do with that.
Tell me a little bit about why you're here today.
Well, obviously Turning Point USA values conservative perspectives. Charlie Kirk is an evangelical Christian who happens to appreciate the Jewish community very much. And so too do many of his followers, and they very much value the Jewish community, so much so that Charlie is actually following our stuff.
Okay.
And to the point
And
where
just
they invited me here to be a VIP.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I was going to say, tell us about your organization too, so people know.
Those who didn't hear the last interview, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
That's right.
Coalition for Jewish Values is representing traditional Jewish perspectives in matters of public policy. We try to limit ourselves to issues where we believe that the guidance that we have from Torah and rabbinic literature mandates a particular perspective on those issues.
Okay.
And those leave us with topic areas including anti-Semitism and Israel's security, but also things like religious liberty, life issues, marriage and family issues.
Well, we'll make sure to put a link to your newsletter and your site as part of the interview.
Yeah, we invite everybody to participate and subscribe to the newsletter. And let's be clear, you don't have to be religious or Jewish to be a supporter of Jewish values.
Is what President Trump said about the squad or the 4 congressmen, is that racist in your view?
I can't imagine where race comes into it. I really legitimately do not. I mean, is it offensive to tell an American citizen to go back to the country they came from and fix it there first before coming back? Yeah, it's obnoxious. But if they're coming to Congress and saying that America is fundamentally broken and we have to redo everything, that's offensive too. So he fought fire with fire. I don't think his language was particularly complimentary, but he's in the middle of verbal warfare, and he engaged in verbal warfare. Okay.
So why the racist cry in your view then?
Because they have been using identity to hide their views. Omar did this with the Jewish community when the Jewish community called out her anti-Semitism. Again, based on classic models that have nothing to do with her color or being Muslim or being a refugee or being a woman. Again, she's talking like David Duke. She's producing stereotypes about Jews that were the exact replica of a Portuguese cartoon, the work of a Portuguese cartoonist that appeared in the New York Times International edition. That exact same image of Jews leading a blinded, deluded, hypnotized world to serve their own interests. So did that make the Portuguese cartoonist a black Muslim refugee woman? None of that is true.
Right.
It's about the view and not about the person.
Rabbi Menken, pleasure to speak with you again.
Glad to be in here. Thank you so much.